Hello everybody, I'm Driftwood, and in this GameMaker Studio 2 tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the process of making a splash screen for your game and some other tips and tricks along the way. So let's get started. Well, that's a cool feature I should mention. If you want to close all of the menus, all of everything, all the borders, you just hit F12 on your keyboard and you can kind of get a full screen of your background, which I think is pretty neat while you're in your workspace, F12. It also takes you out of it if you switch to a tab, as you just seen. Cool. So let's make a splash screen. So for this splash screen, we're going to need probably an image that's the same size as the resolution of what our game is going to be, and we decided that early on that it's going to be 1280 by 720 widescreen, so it'll be full HD. We're going to need a room for that. So I should probably explain a couple of things. When you create a new room, well, let's go ahead and create a new room. From the last project, the only thing that's changed is I've renamed rm underscore 01 to rm underscore 00, because when you use a code to load up your room, it starts with 0. So your first room is considered 0 on the array. So I think it would just make more sense if we just start room 0 title, naming it 0. So rename that. Let's create a new room and we'll call it rm underscore 01 for room 1. Now what we're going to do for this room is we're going to basically on the background layer, instead of using a color, we're going to use a sprite. But instead of like a sprite we're going to create in the thing here, you can use, which you can make it in the sprite editor, but I'm going to use Photoshop, and you can use GIMP to do something very, very similar. What is this? No, we don't need that, sorry. So let's go to Photoshop or GIMP. You can download GIMP for free. I'll put a link for GIMP in the description below. It's going to be a very, very simple process. So let's create a new project. We're going to go 1280 by 720. This is going to be our splash screen title. So in GIMP it's a little bit different, but I'll walk through how I would make it in Photoshop. So the first thing I do is I layer my background, and I just hit OK. So now that's a layer that I can add effects to. Bevel it, emboss it, contour, add texture, whatever we really want to do to it. Edit that to your heart's content. I'm probably going to do something very, very simple. Let's just go ahead and make like a gradient effect or something. So let's select two different colors. We're going to go with like maybe this dark blue, and then we'll go with like a green color or something. And we'll make a little something like that. That'll be fine. Let's go ahead and create a new layer. And like I said, making video games isn't just about coding. If you're going to be an indie dev, you're going to have to know how to do a little bit of everything, pretty much. Making sounds, making audio, making the visual part, graphics. So let's, tinker around with messing with everything. Let's go ahead and take like a green color, and we created a new layer with Control-Shift-N, and just going to do a little bit of dabbling on that, and then throw a filter on that, something like that. Now I'm going to take this and change the opacity to like 50, or let's say 35. Cool, now it's just got a little bit of texture to it. And we can do the same process one more time. So this time we'll take like a sky. No, we already have that color pretty much. Let's go with like more of a darker green, and maybe a different size brush. And we'll go a different direction. We'll go like this. Probably a different color too. Well, I guess that's fine. Cool, let's throw a filter on that. Doesn't really matter what filter, but I'll just be consistent with that one. And we'll set the opacity of this to be like 25. Or let's see, 35. Cool. So now we've got some textured background, right? Some sort of pattern or whatever. Now let's probably make a new layer and throw some text on that. Let's pick a text. You can download a bunch of new fonts online for free. There's a ton of free ones. And then we'll go ahead and we'll make our little splash screen thingy. and we'll call it, I don't know, I don't really have a name for the game, but I'll just call it Driftwood Gaming for now. So let's go ahead and I'll just go like 156 and try it out, Driftwood Gaming. And I'll highlight the whole thing with shift and left click and change the size to like 128. What about 136? Maybe 142, 148, 152. There we go. We'll left click and move it around a little bit. Driftwood Gaming. Let's try to resize it to 142. That's perfect. Okay. Another little trick you can use, I wonder if I have to deselect it first. We can align this automatically. Here, let's try this. We'll hit OK, and then we'll paint this layer, like, I guess, like a white color. Boom. And we'll do some blending options, right click. Bevel, emboss, probably don't want to contour that. We'll just give it that. Some satin. I've already made my defaults to be sort of what I want them to be, but you can go into each one of these and manually mess with them to get them to look however you want to look like. And then we'll just give that like some sort of, maybe if we swap these around and go like this, it'll look cooler. There we go. Nice and bright. Cool. Might be too bright. Let's bring that down just a little bit. There we go. That's good enough for now. And let's go with our selector tool and select the whole thing. Try to be as close to the pixel as you can, because what we're going to do is go to layer, I think it's layer, and then align it. No, it's image, right? Where's it at? Edit. There's a way to align it very easily in one of these options. I've done it before. Here we go. Under layer, go to align layers to section and go to vertical center, and then layer, align to horizontal center. And it just moved it over a little bit. It was pretty much centered. I had it, my eye was pretty good right there, but it did move it over a few. I saw that. So now it's in the center. We know that's in the center. And you know what? I don't want to mess with it too much more. That's perfect for now for what we're going to be doing. We'll get back into the engine. So let's save this. And what we want to do is save it as a PNG file. And I want to talk about project path. So in your preferences of your program for GameMaker Studio 2, you can decide where your default projects are created in. For me, I've gone right into Drive E, and then I've made a subfolder, GameMaker Studio 2, and then in here is where the projects are. So I'll just go to the projects right here, and I could put it inside the project itself, but we're actually going to import it. So instead of going into your project and adding the file from there, we need to import that file from the engine itself. So create another folder inside your first folder, so you go to your GameMaker Studio 2 folder, but not your projects. Create a different one. I just called it imported resources, and I've made some other resources there. So I'm going to save this as Driftwood Gaming Splash 01. As a Photoshop file, we can't import, but I'm saving it as a Photoshop file in case I want to edit it later. So we're also going to save as a .png file. So now we're going to save this as Driftwood Gaming Splash 01.png. Of course, you'll call it whatever your name of your game is, or your company, or your whatever your studio. So we've got that. Let's jump back into GameMaker Studio 2. So now we're on our resources. We can go to room 01 and double click it. It'll open up this tab. And now click on the background layer. If it's not there, add a new background layer. It should be there. It'll be this one though. And then we're going to click on, before we can pick it as a sprite, we have to add it as a sprite. So we'll right click on sprite and create a new sprite. But instead of like creating it here, we're going to go to import. So we'll just click on import. And now we can just go back to our main See, will be in our project folder, which will be titled what you called it when you created it. Back will take you into the projects where you have all of your projects, your default folder, and then back will go to where we're going to actually save all our resources to into a different folder, imported resources. And then I've manually created all of these folders. So I put it in pictures. Let's take this little splash screen and say OK. And it's saying importing is an undoable action. It's going to overwrite whatever is already here, but it's a blank transparent image, so we don't really need to see that. We can actually check that to not bother us again with that and say yes. Now it's added that. We'll go ahead and set the origin to middle center, so it draws right from the center. And we're going to call it SPR_splash. And you can see it's already using those resolutions. We could continue to modify this if we wanted to edit it. And just to show you how to do that, we'll do that. So double click on the first frame and it'll open it up in the editor. Yeah, there it goes. Now what we're going to do is left click on this once, press Control C, and how many frames do we want? Let's go with, say, let's just do 60 frames. So we'll paste that till we have 60 frames. So 1 second, right? Because we're going to go 60 frames a second. So we're going to paste it till we have 60 frames. Could be 30 frames, and it'll repeat itself. But what we're going to do is just mess around with it. Let's figure out sort of what we want to do with it. Probably like make some little dissolving bubbles coming off it or something. So let's select our filled circle tool. Let's select a size. Let's go ahead, since it's a bigger image, we'll select the biggest size. And before we start, oh, I messed up. You know what we should have done was we should have created a different layer and then put that layer on the back. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. I'm actually going to close all of these extra frames. That way I don't have to add a new layer on every one of these frames. We're going to add a new layer to the first frame that was created and then copy paste all those layers again. So that's another reason why you should start small. 60 is a little bit too much. Add a new layer, and we're going to select that layer, but we're going to put the default layer above it. We're going to draw on this layer that's behind it, and you'll see why in a minute. So now we'll copy that and paste that. You know what? I'm going to do 30 frames. It'll repeat itself. It's fine. So 30 frames. Now, we'll animate that, and it's animating, but it's the same frame, so nothing's really happening. Let's double click our thing. We're going to drop the alpha, which is going to make it a little bit transparent and see-through. Now let's select a color. I'm probably going to select like a blue-green color. Cool. And then saturation higher. That's probably good. Let's save that color, hit OK. So now you can see that this looks a little transparent. As it's doing that, that's going to make us feel... Let's go ahead and select the paintbrush tool and then select this brush. That'll let us just draw it. And as this is going, we're going to wait for it to get towards the beginning and then just draw little bubbles or something. So ready and go. Oh, this layer needs to be on top. I messed it up. Oh well. Let's move that layer. There we go. And it's drawing all of those above it. And since we're actually animating, it's moving all of these without having to move them all. So that's kind of cool feature. We can hide them to see what it looks like, and then boom. We can hide that just to see those moving. All right, we've got a little some bubbles going. Let's change it up a little bit. Let's increase the saturation, drop the value, change the tint a little bit, and raise the alpha just a hair, and do the same thing. And really play around with this and get it to look however you want. Let's decrease the size of the bubble. Let's change the color a little bit more again. Drop the alpha back down a hair, and do the same thing. And we'll repeat the process a couple more times. just altering it slightly each time so that it looks a little different. We also want to stay away from the very edges of the corners. On this particular image, it's not a big deal if you do that or not, because it's going to cover up the whole size of the box, the whole size of the screen, 1280 by 720. But when you're doing these animations with like a smaller resolution that's going to be drawn inside the viewport or something, you're going to be able to see where the bubbles get cut off along the edges. And it's going to look unnatural and just going to look sort of like a box. I figured that out the hard way. So full screen doesn't matter, but when you're drawing like particles that are animating like this, stay away from the corners. That's probably too dark. Alpha, and drop that. There we go, that'll probably be good. A few more and then we're done with this little splash screen. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and exit out of that, and it'll save up there in the top right. Now let's, while that's saving, it's a pretty big image and lots of frames, so it's taking a second. There it goes. Let's select that sprite as our splash screen, and if we hit play, we can actually zoom in and out. We also need to change this room 1280 by 720 because you can have, you don't have to specifically set the resolution of all of your rooms to the same resolution. Sometimes you're going to have rooms that are huge, but you'll just make a viewport, and we'll start talking about viewports and how to make like a camera system and its own separate tutorial. It might take a while, but there we go. So let's talk about a couple of things. One, persistence, and also load order. So whenever you load the game, it's always going to load this room first. So this is room 0. It's going to load that room first no matter what. So unless you do creation code, maybe it won't. But, well, as far as I know, it's going to load it first every time. We'll zoom out just a hair. There we go. So in order to get to this one, we need to create some code here, or an object that's going to look for an input. So we could make an object for it, but we could also do some creation code. Maybe that'll only be on the create step. I think an easier way to do this would be with an object. So let's create a new object. This object doesn't need a sprite. It's going to be completely transparent. So we're just going to call it obj underscore menu, or main, or what should we call it? Splash. Obj underscore splash. Doesn't need a sprite or any collision or anything. We're going to add an event that's a step event. And all this event is going to do is it's going to wait for the player to press enter or something. We should probably also make a little animation that says press enter to continue. We can do that next too. So we can say if keyboard underscore check. We need to go ORD because we're going to look for, or let's see, VK enter, virtual keyboard enter, I think is the one. Yep, perfect. VK enter. We don't have to use ORD. We actually don't, when we're talking about if statements, I usually go like this and create the braces for it. But if you're making an if statement and you only have one thing to say, you don't even need the braces. You can put it all on one line. I just thought it was something cool to put in to make a little bit of shorthand. So I usually do it like that, right? But for the sake of this little, I'll show you another way when it's just, all we want it to do is one thing. There's a little codes, room go to. And so if we're pressing enter, then room go to, we can say go to next, which in this case would work fine. What that's going to do is it's going to make it go from room 0 to room 1. There's another thing that I found that we have to do. We need to move our rooms order around and also rename them. So that's fine though. We'll do that. So we can say room go to next, and that'll push it down the list on the order of the rooms and how they are, and it'll load the next room. Or you can say room go to and type in the array number of those rooms. So remember how I said that the arrays start with 0? So room 0 will be this first one, which is where we're at. So we can say room go to 1. So room go to 1 and room go to next. In this instance, we'll do the same thing. So we'll just for the sake of it, I think room go to next will be easier. Go to next. We only have 2 maps here, and they're in that order. So if we're pressing enter, room go to next. That's all that needs to happen on that event, or that object, and the event. So, but what we have to do, we don't need this open anymore. What we actually have to do is go to this room and put that object inside of this map, right? So on the instance layer, we need to drag and drop obj splash. It doesn't even matter where you put it. It has no graphic. You won't even see it. But that code will be checking every step to see if we're pressing enter. Now some other things need to change in order for this to work, because when we load the game, it's going to go to this map and you'll never see this map. So we need to drag this one up and put it like that. Oh, if we drag it on top of it, it will create it as a child object of that. We don't need that. So when you're dragging it up, make sure that you get it in this little space in between rooms and the next room. If you go like that, it'll create it as a child object of that room, which we'll talk about parent and child objects as we get to it. So we're going to not do that yet. We're going to drag this right above it. But since 1 and then 0 doesn't make sense, and we're not actually referencing the names of these rooms yet, I think it's a better idea. For now, I'm going to call that 2 so that I can rename this one to 1, because remember, you can't have 2 objects that are exactly the same name. So now I'll put this back to room 0. So now our room 0 is our splash screen, and our room 1 is our main room. So let's run it. We have to consider the player won't know to press enter, so we have to make the art for that too. And I'll show you an easy way to do that. So this is writing chunk, right? What is this doing? Is it compiling? What's the hold up here? Oh, maybe we have to stop that. Let's try that again. Oh, it's going. It's going. Maybe it's such a big image. It has to take a second. Is it writing? What's happening? Save. Maybe we have to change the alignment. Why is it doing that again? Let's see. Let's look at let's go back to the sprite. Maybe we have to change the sprite a little bit. So maybe instead of middle center, let's go top left and see if that makes it any difference. So we're changing the origin of it from middle center to top left. We'll hit X. That'll save it. Let's test run it again. And this is a big image that's got 30 frames, so that's why it's starting to take a second. So I'm glad I didn't make it 60 actually, because 60 frames would have made this take even longer. We actually need to create another smaller object that says, that's just going to go, it's going to say press enter to continue, so the player knows what to do. There we go. So that's our little splash screen. The game starts and it's loading this little splash screen. And if we press enter, we go to the beginning of the game. And when we die, I don't know if we can die now because we need to make the button to restart the game too. Let's do that now. So this splash screen works. Before we end it, let's do a couple things. Let's create a new object. We're going to call this obj_status. And this is just going to hold some code for us that lets us hold values and stuff. It doesn't need a sprite or anything. We're going to add a step event. All I can think of right now is a step event. So we need to check every frame if we're pressing a button. So if keyboard check, what button should we have for restarting the game? Why not R for restart? So if keyboard check board R, and once again, since we don't actually have anything but one line of code after the conditional, we don't need the braces. So let's just do that same shorthand. If we're pressing R, game_restart, and run that. So at any time if we press R, we should be put back on the splash screen. But not yet, because we have to put this object, obj status, on the maps that we want it to be on. Now, what I wanted to talk about earlier is persistence. What if you make an object like this and you want it to happen on all the maps, but you don't want to have to drag and drop it onto every map, right? That could actually be a bad way of doing it because it could overwrite it. So there's an object, there's what do you call it? There's a feature or a function that's called persistent. So there's a little boolean there. There's a checkbox. If persistent is set to true, once this object has been loaded on a map that the game has been on, that object will stay in the game the whole time. So, well, it should. So let's try it. If we select persistent and we go to, let's see, this is the first map that we're going to be on. So let's drag and drop the status right next to the other one. And now, when we're on this and we press R, it should restart. If we press enter, it should go forward. But since this is a persistent one, persistent object, it should also be active when we get transferred to this map where the object isn't at. So let's see if it works, and we press R once we get into the game. Will it restart it? So we're in the game. It's going to load up. There it is. And when we press R, it'll restart again, and you can see it restarted quickly. Let's press enter. Now we're on the game. If we press R, it took us back. See, that's what a persistent object does right there. And speaking of that, we actually need to make the player object, oh, we already did. We made the player object persistent as well. That way, if he goes from one stage to another stage, his health and all of his stats, they all stay the same. Cool. So there's only one more problem in this tutorial. We need to let the player know how to progress. How do they get past the loading screen? Is that the whole game, just the loading screen? Nope, not exactly. So let's go back to Photoshop. We're going to make a very small file. We're going to make this one, let's say, just something kind of wide. So let's say 360, because we could always scale it up. As a matter of fact, let's just go 640, and then we'll say probably 320. I don't know. How does that look? No, we want it longer. So let's go ahead and image size. We're going to make this 180. So 640 by 180. Cool. Now what we're going to do is layer this from background. We're going to use the magic eraser and get rid of that so it's transparent. There's no background. It's not going to show a white box. If that doesn't work, try adjusting the tolerance or the opacity of your magic eraser. Let's go back to our font. Let's draw. And this is going to say, let's probably do like 72. Press enter to continue. Or to start. Or whatever you want it to say, really. That's too big, though. Let's go ahead and do 56. I kind of want it all on one line. Let's do 48. There we go. And we're going to put it at the top like that, and we can also reduce the size again. So we'll say OK. Let's go ahead and paint it. Now we can hardly see it because it's white on transparent, but remember our background colors. So our background colors are like a green-blue, right? So let's go ahead and do this now while we have it selected. We're going to go bevel, emboss, contour, stroke, so we can see it better too. Satin, outer glow, why not? Let's just add some fancy smanchy stuff to it. And make it a little bit more centered, like that. And cool. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and we can deselect that. We can actually resize it again. So let's image size, change the height. Oh no, we need to actually canvas size this one because it'll stretch the font as well. So we're going to change the canvas size, and we're actually going to go like this. We're going to change our anchor point to the top center because that's what we're moving to. We're going to go ahead and go into pixels, and we're going to reduce this in half. Let's say 90. And then OK? Yes. Nice. We could even cut it a little bit more. Let's canvas size, repeat that one last time, and clip a little bit more. I wish it would remember what my options were. I wanted to stay on pixels. Set our anchor point to the top. How many pixels could we get rid of? Probably like 10 or 12. Let's go ahead and set this to 72. Let's see, it's probably too much. Yeah. No, that's perfect. Cool. So press enter to start. We're going to file, save that as. We can save it as our PSD if we want to edit it, but I don't think we actually are going to need to edit this. So we're just going to save it as a PNG. So we're going to say Press enter to start. You can call it whatever you want. Save it into that imported folder that we created manually. And then we need to add it into our GameMaker. By adding a new sprite. And then importing that as a sprite. Press enter to start. And then we need to set the anchor point. Top left I think would be good. Let's set it to middle center and just to see what happens. And we're going to say SPR underscore enter to start. Cool, we've got that done. We don't need to animate that. We could though. Why not, right? Let's do that real quick. Let's not do a ton of frames. Let's do like 8 frames. So let's add a new layer. Maybe we can do like a copy, paste, 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 paste. And on the second frame, we can use the erase tool, maybe. What if I erase like one of these every time? That's an idea. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's try that. So we're going to go like this. Oh, it's already transparent. So we need to go to this layer. And on this layer, we'll go like boom, boom, boom. I don't know what I'm doing. We're just trying different things to make it look interesting and different. I'm going to undo that one because it's kind of slanted. Boom. Nope, still slanted. Straight down. And draw a straight line. Boom. And then on this one, and then on this one. On the first one, we're going to copy that, go to this end, paste for another one, and erase this last one. Something like that. We're just having fun. And then we'll go ahead and copy this, the full one again. We're going to leave a few extra frames so that it's fully there. So we'll paste that. We'll say 16 frames. So then we animate it. So it looks like it's flashing a little bit. Pause that. We'll get rid of that last frame. Cool. That's good enough for now. We'll go ahead and close that. Let's, it'll save it. We need to create an object for it. So create an object. obj underscore press enter to start object. We're going to assign it that sprite. Press enter to start. And then we're going to, we probably don't actually even need to create an object for this. If you're using the trial, you can actually just drag the sprite onto the background layer and it might work. It might work. In case I want to edit this, actually I kind of want to change the alpha on it. Let's try to do something right here. So let's go ahead and add a new event on the step. We're going to go image alpha. Here's a new one for you guys. So alpha is like how see-through it is, right? The opacity. So we're going to say image alpha equals the minimum number between image alpha minus 1, which would make it invisible. Or so I could just say 0, right? 0. Between 0 and let's see. We want to kind of just change the image alpha every step and then make it go down and then back up. I didn't even think about this earlier. I should have pre-planned this. But oh well, this is part of the fun of it. Image alpha equals image alpha plus or minus 0.0. Every frame it's going to do this, so it has to be a low number. 0.1, right? So in 100 frames, in 2 seconds it's going to be invisible, or less than 2 seconds it's going to be invisible. So 0.05, that's like 4 seconds it's going to be invisible. Okay, image alpha equals image alpha minus 0.005. Okay, cool. If image alpha, it'll just disappear and won't come back. That's the problem. We have to do something about it. If image, okay, here's another thing. when you're making a conditional statement and you're doing a comparison operation, you need to use two equal signs. So up here is an assignment operation. We're assigning something, a value to something. But when we're saying if, that's a comparison. We're saying if image alpha is equal to, whatever, or we can say greater than equal to. If we're just saying equal to, you have to use two equal signs. So, but we're going to actually say less than or equal to 0. Then what we want to do is say image alpha equals 1. And I think 1 is full. Or is it 256 to 0? I think 0 is invisible and 1 is perfectly visible. So let's see. It should go, it'll keep going from full opacity down to like no opacity. And when it finally becomes invisible, it should go full again and then start that over again. So it should disappear and appear and disappear and appear. I don't know. I'm not sure how that's going to work. But let's just try it out. I think it could be kind of cool. Let's go to our room. Not that room now. It's our first room. And let's add this in right here. Press enter to start. And let's save that and play. And I don't have any idea if that's going to work right, or if it'll crash. I don't think it's going to crash. We didn't do too much coding. We just kind of made art stuff. But that's a cool little idea to make it kind of appear and disappear and appear and disappear. Maybe it'll flash. Cool! I actually could get rid of the whole disappearing frames, but I'm going to leave it just for the sake of time. We're going to leave it. And you could actually increase the number of your opacity. And you could continue to make it where you can keep editing the image alpha so that it goes like blinking, sort of. You can make it disappear gradually and appear gradually again by using alarms, like a switch statement type thing. Yeah, we can mess around with that all we want. But I think that's pretty much it. That's going to do it for this tutorial on how to make a splash screen and some other cool tips and tricks. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you're enjoying the GameMaker Studio 2 series. I know I'm having a lot of fun messing with it. Like this video if you did enjoy it. Please subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more GameMaker Studio 2 tutorials, or you're interested in RPG Maker. I have a ton of MV, like so many MV tutorials. You'll blow your mind. So I also do first impressions videos, and people send me their projects to play to like critique them and stuff. So I've got lots of videos. Check those out if you're interested. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye-bye.